Hello.
Hey.
Hey guys.
Hi. For some reason, it took me like 5 times to get in. Anyways, hello.
Hello. So you got my text?
I did not get your text. Let me read it.
CB2. Because Patricia was like, "Oh, I told you got your card. I didn't get my card yet."
Oh, okay.
I've been doing L for L. I do that call weekly for months.
Okay.
So if there are any questions or you want to talk about it, I have some limited knowledge about the technical stuff, especially like how when you get your card, what you're supposed to do, and then how it works.
I think what we should do is include that we should briefly talk about that and then include it in the minutes and send it to all the schools.
Okay, good. I have lots and lots of.
Because I think the reality is we just need to make it user-friendly and make something that they can push out to their mailing list.
All right, cool. Yeah, I have all the materials.
Because we do not have a huge number of people joining today, which is okay. All right. Betty's going somewhere cool.
I sent out to some people, like just now.
Okay, great. We have, I printed out the thing you sent me, Carter, but it's in like 2-point font.
What was that?
I actually printed out the list, the registration that you sent me, but then I realized it's so tiny, I actually can't see it. But we do have Andrew Chang should be on, and we have people from Harvest Collegiate, City As, 130, 41, hopefully someone from PS3. Okay, just give it a few more minutes as people come in.
I'm having a lot of fun looking at you, Janine. Do you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm glad you're looking at me.
I'm having fun looking at you because I see you've got COVID hair, which is quite long.
It's really long. It's beyond the screen long.
Right.
Yes, I do cut my bangs on a regular basis.
Well, yeah, I can see your eyes.
Yes, I've cut those like 3 times already. COVID hair. I thought you were going to say I had gray hair.
What, are you getting old? Is this aging you?
Oh, no, I'm already old. So, okay. I'm going to give it a few more minutes. I see Rennie Fong is on. Kim Watkins, is this the Kim Watkins from CEC 3 on the Upper West Side? I guess you'll just have to start it yet.
She says
Luke
yes.
on also.
Yes. All right, yes. And we have Luke. Okay. I'm going to just give it a few more minutes and then we'll start.
Oh my God, Carrie is on. Carrie Coakley. Hi, Carrie.
I know Carrie too. From St. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to just give it a few more minutes. I didn't hear, other than Barbara, I didn't hear anyone else who could not make it. Just give it a few more minutes.
Well, I'm going to walk to my Zoom room.
Oh, okay.
My kids say I shouldn't always be just sitting on my bed. So I'm not going to show you all my Zoom room.
Oh. Does it have cool stuff on the walls?
Yeah, it has stuff on the walls. You can see that it's a real house. Yeah, apparently, if you heard, there's a website where somebody is ranking celebrities' Zoom rooms based, based partly on what books they have on their walls.
Yeah. Great.
Oh,
Yeah,
Very
scary.
popular.
So I would at least get off my bed and into my living room. There I am.
nice.
Oh, my virtual background all disappeared. Okay. Well, let us, we're going to start. A couple more people are joining in, but we will start. It's 5:04 p.m. Welcome. My name is Janine Kiley. I want to welcome everyone to the CB2 Schools and Education meeting. I want to briefly go around the Zoom screen and introduce our committee members, and then I'll introduce who is on the line. I'm going to start with the upper left corner, Mar Fitzgerald. I'll just let you guys say hello.
Hi, I'm Mar Fitzgerald, CB2 Schools and Ed Committee.
Hi, Patricia Laria, Schools and Ed Committee.
Rich?
Oh yeah, hi, it's Rich Cacapolo. I'm on the committee as well.
Keen and Betty?
I'm Keenberger. I'm on the committee.
I'm Betty Gabovi-Weiss. I'm also on the committee.
Carter, Matt, and Valerie? Carter's muted.
I'm Matt Metzger. I'm on the committee.
Carter Booth, I'm the chair of the board.
Hi, I'm Valerie Del Rosa. I'm the chair of the Reopening Working Group for CB2.
Thank you for joining us. On the call, we have several attendees. We have Andrew Chang from the Borough President's Office. We have Kim Watkins from CEC District 3, Luke Wolf from Comptroller Stringer's office. And let's see, we have Pat Comerford from Speaker Johnson's office. We have Rennie Fong, the principal at PS 130. Carrie Coakley, are you with, I'm not sure which school you're with. I'm going to allow you to talk. Carrie, which school are you representing, or are you just listening in?
No, I'm representing Harvest Collegiate High School.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. I'm going to mute you now. And I think, did I miss any other? We were expecting also some people from PS 41 and possibly PS 3 on the call in City as School.
Amanda's on.
Oh,
PA Presidents.
oh, PS 41. Thank you. Thank you, Mar. Okay, this is, I'm going to jinx it by saying this. This is not going to be a long meeting, hopefully. But we wanted to just update everyone on the open request for open streets in Community Board 2 and have a discussion on that. I'm going to share my screen. Let me do that. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, you. That's still not what I wanted. That should be better. Oops. Okay. So let me just move this up. So we're going to briefly talk about open streets. At the end, we'll talk about some other school issues and go into our business session. If you have questions, you can either put them in Q&A or put them into the chat. Okay. Oops. So last month, CB2 unanimously passed a resolution in support of open streets for schools and the addition of outdoor and indoor school sites to support the safe reopening of New York City schools. And we had 4 parts of our resolution. One was working with the Department of Transportation to implement fast-tracked and streamlined open streets, and that's the focus for tonight. Working with parks, Hudson River Park, New York City parks, and other open spaces to provide priority access for public school students during school hours. That's ongoing. We reached out to the Parks Department the other day, and they said they're still working on that. We know the DOE is looking at alternative indoor spaces for students during school and after school. And that's ongoing. And then the last thing we suggested was potential funding source for community-based organizations for out of school and after school programs. And I would say that's sort of ongoing, but really not. The city is looking at 100,000 rec center spaces for families who need childcare during school, but that's the kind of the minor focus of that. So through today, we received, several schools in our community have requested open streets and community board 2. PS3 has requested 2 streets, Bedford Street between Christopher and Grove Street between Bedford and Hudson. That's been a play street for the past probably 5 or 6 years. PS41 has requested 11th Street between 6th and 7th. PS130 has requested 2 streets, Baxter Street between Grand and Hester Street between Mulberry and Baxter. And I just want to point out, in addition to having almost 800 students at the school, PS130 as well as PS41 are sites for grab-and-go meals. I don't have the numbers for PS41, but last Wednesday, PS130 gave out 13,950 meals in our community. So if you walk by the school from 7:30 to 1:30, you'll see long lines of people waiting to pick up meals. We're still not sure if that's going to continue when school starts, but you can see how crowded those sidewalks get. 75 Morton today submitted a request for Barrow Street between Hudson and Grove. And that is on adjacent to the playground.
It says Hudson and Greenwich.
Oh, Hudson, I'm sorry, between Hudson and Greenwich. That is, I misspoke. That is correct. And City as Schools requesting Clarkson between Hudson and Varick. That's between J.J. Walker and the front side of the school. Harvest Collegiate, which is on 14th Street, which is a busway, which is therefore very limited, has requested a portion of 13th Street between 5th and 6th Street. And they reached out to the speaker's office. And I just want to point out that we've always had 3 play streets in our community, the last several years. PS3 on Grove Street, Cook Academy on McDougal, just south of Houston, and Academy of St. Joseph's in the just off of We are expecting additional requests, but I just want to say that these are the ones that the schools have submitted to Department of Transportation as of now. And I just want to talk about process, because at this point, we don't know the process. Everyone we've talked to has said they don't know the process. Schools that were really diligent and submitted applications 2 weeks ago received an auto reply last Thursday that basically said, we thank you for your submission. We look forward to getting back to you by October 21st. And since school starts on September 10th, we know that's not the right answer. But we have a city agency that has rolled out open streets for restaurants, and we know that took a tremendous amount of work, and we're hoping that the same effort can be put towards open streets for schools. And I just want to take people through the maps. Let's see. Whoops. So in the West Village, let's see. This is, right here is Barrow Street between Hudson and Greenwich, and that faces the playground at 75 Morton. So this is what 75 Morton requested. PS3 has requested Barrow Street between Hudson and Bedford, which is where they've had a play street, and Bedford Street, which is on the back side of the school. And City as School has requested the street across from J.J. Walker, which already has a lot of bus parking and frankly used a lot for school purposes anyways. PS3, I got this plan from one of the parents. Students will assemble, they basically, it's a 120-year-old building, and the fourth floor students will assemble in the dark purple, the 5th floor students will assemble in the magenta, the 3rd floor students would assemble on Bedford Street, and the 2nd floor students would assemble on the north side of Bedford Street, and the public staff and late students would enter through Hudson Street. So this is the flows of students that they're sort of working out in terms of staggered starts, just to make sure that there's maximized social distancing, and just gives you a visual of not even counting recreation purposes, why these open streets are so important. Here is for PS 41, they're requesting 11th Street between 6th and Greenwich, and Harvest Collegiate is requesting a portion of 13th Street. The school is on 14th Street, but again, there's a busway, so they can't put anything there.
We ask a question now?
Yes, go ahead.
So 13th Street, we've talked about it at the community board. It's been one of the streets that's been negatively affected by the busway on 14th. Since the traffic can't go down 14th, 13th, and is the one that's been really crowded from sort of University through to 7th. So I don't know how DOT will approve that. Plus there's, so there is a bike lane on there, so it's squeezed down to one lane already. I anticipate they'll push back because of all the complaints I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, and Carrie, Patricia, can you unmute Carrie? Maybe she can, if she has a little bit more color.
I muted myself.
Okay.
This honestly today is the first that I heard this. There was an official request for the street. Just looking at the map, what about 15th Street? That's kind of just as easy for everybody to get to. And I believe there is a bus lane also on 13th Street, isn't there?
No, there's a bike lane.
There's a bike lane. Okay.
The bus lane moved to 14th.
Okay.
But I do think it's and the question I'd want to see if there's if it's ambulance use to get to the
health bike.
On 7th and 13th.
Yeah.
They may use 14th there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it'd be great if we could have some space somewhere around there, because it is a real problem with
Carrie, after this call, I can connect you and Kate to Josephine Ishman, who is on the essentially the schools committee for community board 4, because guess what, you cross 14th Street, it's a different community board, and you need them to approve it. And I will say that depending on how the school uses it, the principal's email said a portion. So I don't know if it's the whole street or if it's just where the parking area is on one side of the street, which is frankly would still provide a decent amount of space for students.
Thank you.
There's also a restaurant there that has outdoor seating. So
yeah, so
there'd be a trade-off there. But you'd have to block the whole street at 5th.
Yeah,
and it's become a major thoroughfare with the closing of 14th.
Yeah, absolutely.
15th has got a ton of construction, but yeah, well, I'd be interested to see what DOT says.
Exactly.
Maybe.
And I think we'd probably need a little more clarity from what the school, needs, because the request was just for a portion. It wasn't for the whole street.
Quick question.
Yes.
I have a question. Isn't City and Country on 13th Street between 6th and 7th?
It is on the south side, yeah, right by that green. Yep.
Are they requesting that block?
They have not, but I haven't, emailed them, I haven't done tons of outreach on that either. So,
they expressed great concern when the bike lane was put in on the left side there, because right in front of the school, it limits the drop off. They thought kids would get hit by bikes.
Yeah, the bike lane is on the south side of the street.
It is, yeah.
Okay, great.
It was moved. There used to be a bike rack. There was actually a bike rack on the north side of 13th between 5th and 6th, and there's one on the north side of 13th between 6th and 7th too. So.
Okay.
There's one on a
Janine,
yeah.
Can I just raise that I think 14, we shouldn't write off 14th in the same way we would write off Broadway or one of the other busways. And obviously this is, I'm not suggesting we opine on stuff that we shouldn't opine on, but 14th to me feels different because there's no other traffic. Like you can go, it's just like a couple buses every so often, what else is allowed there? Some trucks. It feels pretty desolate in the sense that like you could carve out with, Jersey barriers, a portion, I feel like, if they really needed it on 14th without a material impact. It's not like there's a bus stop exactly where they're looking to go. without
Yeah,
material impact
there is.
to the.
There is a bus stop right on 14th right there. And there are 40 buses an hour on 14th Street.
Can I interject? We have the principal from Harvest Collegiate that can possibly give some more insight.
All right, Kate.
Hi. Hi. You could share my screen if you need. Thank you so much for having
Let
this.
me stop my share. We're going to elevate you. We're gonna promote you to panelist, and you
She's up. She's up.
She's up. All right. Kate?
Kate, unmute yourself.
Hi, yes. Thank you for having me. I'm principal of Harvest Collegiate. We're on the top 2 floors of the Party City. Our students enter on 14th Street, but we have an exit onto 13th. We're closer to 6th, but between 5th and 6th. And we have major ventilation concerns. Many of my teachers said they will not come back in the building, and parents are organizing as well. Our ventilator is currently broken that serves the cafeteria and library, and it has been for years. So I think whatever is decided, I don't know if 13th between 5th and 6th would be ideal, but we could also combine a 13th between 6th and 7th for instruction. Would go a huge long way for our school. Thanks.
Right. Did you hear the 14th Street idea?
I did. I feel like it would be harder to hold classes on 14th Street. It's like it is a thoroughfare, even with traffic closed. 13th Street is quieter and shadier if we're really trying to have them focus. So I would prefer something on 13th. Is that looking possible or not on the table?
I mean, it should be on the table. There's no reason nobody said, we can't, there's no reason to be a no here. The question is, how do we figure it out? Pat, we have Pat Comerford on from the speaker's office. Pat, are you still on or did you drop off? Because I know we'll be working with Pat.
I just elevated her. She's there.
Not to put you on the spot, Pat.
Pat, are you there? Oh.
Yeah, she's. We may have put her on the spot, so
oh.
I think this is. I mean,
here I am.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
We were talking about sort of what's the best way to push forward something for 13th Street for Harvest Collegiate. Like they have a broken ventilator, major ventilation concerns, and they want to get some space outside for actually having outdoor classes for the students. Not just recreation, not just ingress and egress. And obviously 13th Street, there's a lot going on, but so they're closer to 6th Avenue with an exit on 13th Street. Pat, you had mentioned that you might have some meetings later this week.
Yes, but I'll talk to DOT about all of this. I don't know anything right now. They haven't told us anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just following your lead.
Yes, thank you.
You know, we have all the information. I just don't know what they've decided to do or not to do.
Yeah.
But it's good that you're collecting the information for the individual schools.
Yes, and you know, we'll reach out to city. We'll reach out to city City and Country as well to see if there was.
You know, I don't know 13th Street. We don't need the whole street, so you know, maybe a portion of the street can be dedicated to this.
Yes, I would just second a portion of the street would be fine. Those are really long blocks.
Yeah, they're really, really long blocks. Kate or Carrie, if you could, or CB2 members who live nearby, if somebody could get some pictures and maybe send them to me.
Yeah, I live on the block. I'll take some pictures.
Okay,
and
great.
I'll include the fact that's the block I live on. And you know, and Pat, you'll remember that both sides of 6th Avenue at 14th Street are under, you know, have giant buildings being built. So 6th Avenue goes down to one lane.
Yeah.
So it's a very busy area right now.
Okay. I know.
But 13th, if traffic comes back, that street is filled with cars, you know, waiting for the light. Since 14th Street's been, you know, closed to traffic.
Okay.
Just
I would just add again, 13th is our first choice because we could, you know, walk out right there. But if 13th is needed for traffic, you know, anywhere nearby we could combine with even the 11th, the PS 41 would be great, but then we would need a larger area. But our first choice would be 13th. Thank you.
Okay.
Just if I'm hearing right, Kate is the only one who is suggesting outdoor instruction.
Yes. Well, I think so. We haven't gotten to everyone, but I think so. So far.
So far.
That criteria may be a little different. Just
I wasn't
perspective
suggesting
of a closed lane.
instruction. You said
Right.
instruction.
And I'm just saying that we should just find out a little bit more.
Good point.
If there's instruction about safety, if it's a shared street. That's just, we should try and find out about that now, because that may not be a conversation that's happening.
But it's not happening. We've only unofficially heard it's not happening. There have been no official announcements. How's that? I think, Kate, have you heard, have you raised this with, who's your superintendent?
Yes, I have spoken to them. It's Alan Chang. And actually the president of our SLT, Carrie Coakley, is on the line here too. So everyone is very enthusiastic. I've spoken to many parents. We have a committee, and you know, they feel like their kids could go to school if we have an outdoor space.
Okay.
I also want to add, Carl Oliver says that they would use open street for instruction and physical education from City as school.
Okay, so City as would use it for possible instruction. And so basically the high schools need bigger kids, need more space. And I just want to point out, I don't know what your capacity is. I'm sure you do, but City as is at 156% capacity. You know, even if you only are cycling the kids through on a partial basis, they need a lot more space. Okay. So we've instruction. Let's go to, I'm going to share my screen again and go to we'll discuss PS 130. Oops, this is not the screen I wanted to share. Share. Just a moment. Okay, so back to, I just want, we have Rennie Fong on, the principal at PS 130, and they've requested Baxter Street, which is on this school is, let me get my pointer. This is a school from this almost the entire part of Baxter Street. So they're requesting almost the entire street between Hester and Grand, and then, between Hester and Grand. And then they're also requesting Hester Street on the south side of the school between Baxter and Mulberry to get the kids in and out of the school, and possibly, it's mainly for ingress and egress. Rennie, do you want to add anything to this?
Rennie, you can unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, just thanks so much for your advocacy. Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah, it's mostly for egress and the morning. Yeah. So thank you guys so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. And let's move down. So Hudson Square, we have not had any requests yet, but I just want to point out there are three schools here: NYC High School, Chelsea High School, and Broome Street Academy. So that's really it in terms of the open streets, in terms of the requests so far.
Could I ask one question?
Yes, who is that? Yes.
That's Carrie.
I'm just saying, just because I live one block south of that school cluster there,
yes.
Are the schools allowed to take over parks for instruction or for play? Because there is a little park right there.
Yeah, there's a nice sized park right there. The answer is we don't know. I emailed Steve Simon last week, and he said that he's the one of the parks head of operations for Manhattan.
That's right.
And
Chief of staff, yeah.
Chief of staff, I'm sorry, Chief of staff. And he said that they're still working on it. So we will need to keep pushing on that. There isn't a firm answer on that. Because parks would obviously make sense. I mean, they could make sense for, Sarah Volley Playground is reasonably close to Harvest Collegiate, not as close as outside the back door. We have Spring Street Park for Hudson Square Schools and J.J. Walker for City as School. And
AIDS Memorial Park too.
Oh yeah, AIDS Memorial Park for PS 41.
41, yeah, and City is Country and City is.
Yes. So there's obviously a lot of opportunities for parks, but that would sort of be in addition to sort of the ingress and egress. I know we've had a bunch of questions, but I'm just going to go around for the committee members if you have any additional questions, and then we'll go to the public if you have additional questions. If you have raise your hand if you have a question that you would like to ask. Betty?
I'm wondering whether the use of the outdoor space is being mostly left up to the schools, or whether the city or DOT is putting in any sort of restrictions about how many students can be in the street at any time, or what sort of uses the outdoor space can be used for, whether it's entirely up to the school's discretion.
I don't know. I mean, I think as far as I can tell from my children's schools, everything's up to the school's discretion with very little guidance. But Kate or Rennie, I don't know if you want to add to that. I don't want to put you on the spot. Okay. But I mean, like a lot of elementary schools are just going to be inside for 5.5 hours and then be told to leave. Right now you can go to J.J. Walker Park and there's a sign on the park entrance that said you can meet, but you can't have any organized team sports. But there's lots of people in that park on any given day. Mar?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, there's really no guidance, and it has been but it's also a very fluid situation because, I mean, we asked 2 weeks ago, not about open streets, but about using the cafeteria as classroom space. And at that time it was like, no, absolutely not. It can't be used for that. And now it's like many schools are planning to use the cafeteria space to expand the classroom space. So it's a fluid situation, but you know, a friend of mine was on the Baruch call this morning and they were actually, so I'm told that the DOE has advised them not to let the children out of their classrooms or to let them out as little as possible of their classrooms, and that they won't be doing PE outside. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm expecting to pick my child up after that child has sat in one place for 5.5 hours. That's what I'm expecting. Akila?
I was wondering if there has been any guidance in terms of if you are holding classrooms outside, is there going to be a school guard or additional school guards posted at the schools to ensure the safety of the kids outside of the building? Because right now, you know, school guards are usually stationed by the main entrance of the school and they make sure all the kids stay contained in the school. But if kids are going to have classrooms out on the street, what kind of security is going to be there for children?
I'm going to share my, so the quick answer is these will operate sort of like a play street, and the play streets are hosted by schools with 2 adults, and the open streets are hosted by community groups, and they have like an NYPD barrier or something like that. So I think the schools would have the same requirements that they would have by age. So if you, the younger the kids are, the more adults that need to be outside with them. So I think it's going to vary, but I don't believe the play streets that were operating had school security. They just had the same way you would have recess monitors or something like that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Valerie?
Yeah. Hey, I just think this is a probably really obvious question, but what are I assume this is just during the weekdays and the normal school hours, and what are those exactly?
What are normal school hours?
Yeah, what are normal, or sorry, I just don't know.
I mean,
So-
so I mean, it would just be for school days, absolutely. And the school hours, I'm gonna give a big I don't know, because every school that I've heard from is doing some kind of phased arrival and dismissal. The school day is being shortened from 6 hours and 50 minutes to 5.5 hours. But if you're phasing the start and end times, you may have a longer time. And then there's, you know, will there be any after school programs? This falls under the everything's very fluid. But I would say in the range of 8 to 5-ish, in the range, definitely Monday through Friday.
Okay, really great presentation as always, and I fully support what you put together and getting the input already ready to show everyone. So awesome.
Thanks. Thank you. Matt Metzger.
Close to Mark.
Yes.
So seconding Valerie, as always, I personally would like to pass a resolution in support just of Janine and everybody who puts these presentations together, because they're awesome. But I'm concerned about a temporary barrier. I would really like these to be more fortified, like jersey barriers, crash proof, something that puts safety between children and cars or buses or anything else. I think this is going to come down to what, I don't think what the board prioritizes, but what the city is prioritizing in terms of, is it, the people who are living on 13th Street who are obviously going to be impacted. And I at least would argue that it should definitely be kids getting taught and not people trying to park. And I get that there are mobility issues and all this stuff, but we all have to sacrifice. I think would be my motto, and I think sacrificing for schools is the right thing.
Great.
I can't raise my hand, but I just wanted to echo what Matt was saying. They really need to start working on some sort of guidelines, just like with the open restaurants. I don't think those are substantive enough to protect the kids, but if they're having outdoor instruction, it's obviously much more organized than a play street. And it's something they really need to work on, because if they want to use jersey barriers or something along those lines, they have to be modified to fit the roadbed spaces, especially if it's a shared street. So it's a little more complicated to get to that end than just saying, let's do it. It would be so many.
Okay.
So.
Great. I want to go to the chat and then to the public. Rennie Fong answered for PS 130. Their 5.5 hours will be 8:30 to 2. They hope the youngest students might come in later and leave earlier. So again, it's a pretty short window. The play streets, which have worked at PS3, which is an elementary school, it just used the NYPD barriers, and Cook Academy, which is on McDougal Street, is a special needs school. They do have like a crossing guard there, I believe, most of the day. Academy of St. Joseph, I'm not exactly sure what they've used, but I will find out in terms of their safety. But in general, the play streets and then the open streets have not been on terribly busy streets. Clarkson is probably the busiest one on this list. And if any of you've been by Clarkson and 7th Avenue South, they finally added the neck, which for when it won't be, if it isn't close to traffic, will make it a lot safer, because I think that's a very dangerous intersection. I also want to bring with Eliana Cohen from Senator Kavanaugh's office. She asked, Eliana, I don't know if you want to talk, but she asked if schools have been made aware that they can request this space. Only if someone's let them know that. CB2 has reached out to all the schools, but we didn't get Harvest Collegiate because we didn't have the email that I had for their bounce back, but they reached out through the speaker's office. So unless somebody's sharing this information with the schools, I don't think they're getting it. So I think if Senator Kavanaugh's office wanted to reach out to all the schools in his district, which is larger than Community Board 2, that would be great.
Okay, so that's something that would be actively helpful. You want to kind of spread this program out I don't want to overwhelm the system if this is going to be super challenging to execute. But I also want to make sure that schools, know this is something that we can advocate for on their behalf if that is true.
Well, I personally think it's true. It is a black hole. The way to apply now is to go to the DOT website and submit a request to the Manhattan Borough Commissioner. You cover Brooklyn as well, so that would be a different commissioner for Brooklyn. And then you receive that, absurd auto reply that you might hear back by October 21st. So the real answer is this: nobody's really put this program together, and we really need to push and make this happen, because the schools need this space. And just to put this in perspective, the hospitality industry employs 250,000 people at 24,000 eating and drinking establishments. The DOE educates 1.1 million students and employs 135,000 people at 1,800 schools. So essentially you're dealing with almost 4 times the number of people that you, in terms of employees and students, than you have at these eating establishments.
Yeah,
it's equally important. I'm not saying one is more important than the other. They're both important.
I would love to, if possible, I'm just going to drop my email into the chat if we could circle back at some point, because I would love to talk about this further in terms of how we can be most helpful.
Great. We can follow up tomorrow.
Awesome.
Okay. Does anyone else from the public have a question that you want to ask out loud, or a comment that you would like to make? You can just go to the bottom of the, go to your name and click raise your hand. No. Okay. Okay. I hate to do the any other kind of issues, but I mean, there's a million issues. I shouldn't say any other issues that Community Board 2 can help with, because
we have a hand up.
Yes, we have a Carl. Allowed you. I'm going to promote you to panelist. You should be on the screen in a second. Carl, come in yet? How long does it take?
It's usually immediate.
Yeah, I think we lost you, Carl. Oh no.
There's a question from Kim Watkins.
Yes, Kim?
Oh, Carl's up. Carl's up.
All right.
Carl's on the bottom.
Hello?
Yes,
Did
Carl.
it work?
It did, finally. All right, Carl.
Oh, cool. So like if you're at City As, right, adjacent to it, there's a big empty lot with like gravel in it.
We know that one.
Yeah, so that would be really using that for phys ed, or just to have kids like meet and congregate would be really helpful. I'm not sure like how to go about that, but in thinking about the streets thing now, if that doesn't work out, that would probably be another thing that we'd want to look at.
Great. That's with that's a city water tunnel site, and I believe that has been or has been in the process of I guess Parks is managing it, but we can coordinate with the Speaker's office and
DOT manager.
Your DOT manages it. Well, back to DOT. Well, that's either way. It's particularly the side on Houston Street. Well, they just removed all the equipment that was there a week or so ago, so now it's empty. Okay.
Yeah, I bet a portion of it maybe, Janine.
Yeah.
You know, they'd want to cordon off the access to the tunnel, but.
Yeah, but the southern side, I think, could be accessed. Possibly.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's interesting.
That's a good one.
Maybe.
Carl, we will follow up on that and work on that.
Thanks. That'd be very helpful.
Kim? Carl, did you have anything else, or was that what? Carl, sorry. Okay, Kim, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me speak and also break away from what you're really, you're focused on today, which, by the way, I want to commend you guys because it seems so organized and impressive. Your presentation, Janine, seriously, the blockage of the roads already being planned out that way is really impressive. So I'm glad to learn that, and hopefully can take some best practices uptown. But the reason I wanted to sit in today was because I've been hearing from school nurses all around the city, because District 3 has been working on the school nurse issue for quite some time. And I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of the sort of delicate nature of the city's plan, the DOE's plan to put a school nurse in every building, and how illegitimate that is in terms of what is really needed in our schools, which are full-time nurses in each of our school buildings. And the difference being that there are nurses employed by the Department of Education, about 500 to 600 of them, and there are roughly 700 to 800 nurses employed by the Department of Health, which leaves a really huge gap of several hundred nurses that are vendor contracted nurses that come in and fill in the gaps. And there are in in Manhattan, at least a good 100 schools do not have nurses assigned to them. And therefore they are the recipients of these contract nurses. But the major part of the sort of schematic that's being described to us in our reopening plans around the city has to do with the fact that contract nurses don't have training that helps them understand sort of the ins and outs of what's going on in a school community. And they don't have access to the online student health record system. It's called Hester. And so when they see a student, they don't make a record of it online, which means they don't track in terms of syndromic surveillance. They don't feed into the public data system that is more informative in terms of what we really need right now during COVID-19. So I'm going to just drop my email address into the chat and a resolution that we wrote in District 3 a long time ago, actually. It was a while ago, but it has the numbers from the Office of School Health so that you guys know that when you hear these plans from the mayor and from the chancellor, and they're talking about nurses, they're not talking about employing nurses. That would require a huge labor discussion that deals with, the UFT and DC 37. They're talking about hiring private companies to fill in the gaps. And those nurses, it's not the same caliber of nurse that we really need in our schools.
Got it. For the schools that are on the call, Carl and Rennie, and I don't Carrie, I don't know if Kate is still on. Do your schools have nurses?
Yeah, this is Rennie. We're really fortunate. We're one of the best nurses in the city, of course. A DOE nurse, but I hear from a lot of my colleagues in D2, and some of them have not had a nurse pre-COVID and still don't. So that is a grave concern. And thanks for sharing that, Kim, because I didn't even realize how hard it would be if it was a hired nurse versus someone within the DOE, who knows how a school operates. That's huge.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Rennie. Aaron, Peter, or Mar, do you know what PS41 has?
Yeah, Erin, did she drop something? She actually just emailed. She asked if we know if anyone else is coordinating beyond us for the city or District 2, I guess.
For nurses or for open streets?
Oh, for open streets.
Yeah, the answer is I don't think anyone else is. But I think there's a handful of schools a handful of schools in Community Board 3, including PS42, have requested them. We know Salk has requested them because there was a parent who was a PS41 parent who got the email that we sent, who then started it at Salk. We know that 289 in Battery in Community Board 1 has requested one, but they actually have not received a lot of requests from their schools for open streets. And they did discuss this at their July meeting as well, but I don't know outside of that. So, and I do know that CECD2 has a resolution tomorrow night at their meeting on outdoor instruction, which is more focused on the instruction side versus the open streets, and that's using parks as well as streets. So I know that that's going to be before CEC2, but I don't know if anyone's reached out to the individual schools.
Did you guys want to hear from Amanda from PS 41? I'm not sure if she has.
And we have, I'm sorry, I just want to read Katie Loeb from Councilwoman Rivera's office. They are taking requests for individual locations for Councilmember Rivera's office. We should, Akila, can I ask you just, you know what I can do? I can send that email. Katie, are you already in touch with Naomi Pena with CEC District 1? That might be the, but we'll make sure that connection happens as well. Because none of the CB2 schools actually are in Carlene and Councilwoman Rivera's district. Sorry, and then.
But what for District 1? What did you want to know?
Oh, I'll just connect Katie Loeb to Naomi Pena because she could probably reach out to more rapidly to all the District 1 schools. Many of which, not all of which, but many of which are in Councilwoman Rivera's district.
Yeah.
It's probably the fastest way to do that, if it hasn't already happened. Mar, was there someone else that you wanted to suggest?
No, but Patricia asked if Amanda wanted to speak. Maybe if Amanda wants to speak. She is our PTA president.
I think I'm unmuted. If you can hear me, I was just going to answer the question about the nurse and let you guys know that we do have a full-time nurse for this school year. So we're in a lucky position there. Thank you so much for asking.
Thank you. Okay. Kim, thank you for bringing this to our attention. And we'll figure out what schools are lacking nurses and take a look at the resolution you shared as well.
I know that there are schools that, I think someone dropped it in the chat that they get a temporary nurse. And that is something that happens if you don't have a full-time nurse employed, that they'll send you a temp nurse. But oftentimes those nurses can change, throughout the year. They're not often kept for a whole year. I know that because our school had that experience. We got a temporary nurse. We got a new nurse every week for 3 months, which had a lot of problems for the community.
Yeah, and then there's the database system as well that just that's a problem. Okay, so let's figure out how big of an issue this is for our schools and community board too, as well. The only other things that we wanted to raise is families are, public school families and some private and charter school families will receive an EBT card eligible for $420 in food. And those have not come yet. If you don't need it, you should still spend it and spend locally and then take the same amount of money and donate it to a charity that needs the money. Mar, I know you had looked into this a little bit. Did you?
Yeah, every public school student is going to get $420. People who also receive regular SNAP benefits or cash assistance from the city already received that $420 per student back in March. People who hold Medicaid cards or another kind of benefits card got it, I believe, the beginning of this month. And everybody else will get a standalone card in the mail sometime this month, anytime before the end of September is what it's scheduled for. When those cards come, there's a phone number you call and you set up a PIN. It's all digital. And then you can use the card just like a credit card at Whole Foods, Costco, your farmers markets, or even online with Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods and a few other stores. We will be sharing information on how to use that card.
Because we figured this, we don't get a lot of people on these calls, but maybe we'll put together a fact sheet and just send it out to all the schools, and then people can send that to more broadly to their communities. But please tell everybody to check their mail so you don't accidentally throw it away. And the only other, I just want to share that there is no answer yet. I emailed someone in the Department of Sanitation who works for the Food Czar, as well as the DOE. It's to be determined whether or not the grab-and-go meals will continue for non-students once school begins. Rennie, I don't know if you've heard anything more recent in the last, I've got that information about 2 hours ago, or maybe an hour ago.
Oh, you're the best. Yeah, thanks for finding out. Yeah, because that was a great question. I didn't even know that. Hopefully it could be separate, just because there's just then that whole social distancing would be so hard. But it's been a great service, I know, for the community. Like I said, like you said, there's just so many people lining up every day. But yeah, you're talking about 13,000 meals, and then the hours would have to be different. So it would be difficult, I think, if it continues at the same space, especially also because a lot of workers came together, because the kitchen staff, but we usually don't have that many. So yeah, it's a big operation. So just not sure how that's going to work.
Okay. That's really it. The grab and go meals. Obviously, we will be in touch with everyone, because that is, I don't know how many meals are being served today at PS 41, if anyone has heard that number. But again, almost 14,000 meals are being handed out at PS 130. Those are the 2 sites within Community Board 2. So there's a huge, huge, huge demand for meals, and not just by students. And obviously there's a huge amount of unemployment. People are hungry. And those are some huge needs in our communities. And I just want to keep reminding people that those needs are out there, and we'll have to, if those meals don't continue, we'll have to figure out how to work with some social services organizations to help on that.
I've got a question.
Yes.
It's for Rennie. Rennie, where do the people line up to get the grab and go meals? Is it at a different entrance at your school? Because I haven't been downtown to witness this.
Hi, Patrick. In the beginning of the summer, it was in the front of the building where they couldn't come in, but they would set up tables. But I think it became so big that they opened up the side of our cafeteria, those doors, so the cafeteria staff can, they have our whole lunchroom is filled with lunches or breakfast, and then they give it out as they come in, starting at 7:30 in the morning.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they have a lot of kitchen workers, from other schools, because it's such a big operation.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm trying to envision what's going to happen in the fall when your students start to come in. They're going to, that's going to be an issue. All right, thank you.
Sure. I was just wondering, how about the senior centers? I know they're probably not open, if those could be used for distribution. I know some of the senior centers have kitchens too, but I don't know. Yeah, just need to maybe think of that when talk about other places that could maybe pick up that kind of service.
Okay, thank you, Rennie.
Sure.
I saw Keen on the call. Do you know if the Social Services Committee and CB2 has dealt with this question? I don't know if he's still on the call.
Keen is not. She had a 5:30 to 6 o'clock commitment. I don't think it's been on an agenda. I have copied Susanna, Aaron on the emails, and I'll do it again on some of the emails about how many meals are being distributed. So let me follow up with Susanna on that. Betty, you had a question?
Yeah, just about this same issue. Obviously, the system would have to function fairly differently, but is there any way to transition to sort of less perishable meals that are distributed in bulk on weekends, so that, because the school buildings are ostensibly not being used in the same capacity on weekends as they would be on weekdays. And so even if there were student activities happening in schools on weekends, food distribution could happen on Saturdays and Sundays, that could last throughout the week, or would instead only require that one day during the school week people would have to come in to get meals, so that would limit the amount of social distancing concerns between students and the rest of the general public.
That is a great suggestion. One of the people I reached out to is the Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Sanitation, who I know outside of CB2. I will share that idea with him, because he works for the Food Czar, and maybe I don't see where that idea is bubbling up within their system. just check the chat. Okay, I think we're going to go into business session unless there's people have any other comments. No? Okay. You're welcome to listen, but it'll just be the CB2 right now. I just want to throw out, thanks for elevating everyone, Patricia. I just want to put up the list of the open streets again and talk about, you know, if we have, you know, our, you know, sort of follow-up items and, you know, if there are any concerns about supporting any of these streets. Let me just put that up just a moment, please. This is the full list of streets. Two in PS3. The second one has already been a play street, so that's not going to be a new burden in any way on the community. PS41 is 11th. Two streets around PS 130, particularly needed if it's still a food distribution site. Barrow Street, which is actually between 75 Morton and St. Luke's. City as school. I'm going to add to this, following up on the water tunnel site. Harvest Collegiate, we'll follow up offline and just try to get a little bit more detail on different options. And then I just listed the play streets because these schools think they've done everything. Cook Academy thinks they've already reapplied, so I just sort of want to dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure that that's in place. Rich was going to follow up with some pictures and sort of details on 13th Street because obviously that's going to be a little complicated. Anyone else have any? And I think as a committee we can just share that information via email. And this is exec is tomorrow night, right, Carter? Are we still on track for a board meeting or are we just going with it?
Yes and yes, and then there's also another executive meeting a week from next week. Or right, that's right. I'm sorry, it's next year. Just mixing up all my dates here. Yes.
There's one tomorrow, though. Yeah.
There's one tomorrow.
Right, so there's one tomorrow and then on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, any other, I think we need to sort of follow up with Harvest Collegiate and get some pictures of the streets and lay out a couple options. But I personally would like to be supportive of finding solutions to help each of these schools with their reopening plans. And at the end of the day, if things need to be tweaked a little for safety purposes or other purposes, that seems reasonable. And that's sort of what I would propose us supporting.
I'm for that too, Janine.
Yeah.
I'm definitely for that. I mean, I'm even wondering if we could, you know, take it a step further that even if a school, we haven't heard from a school or we don't know what the school plan is, could we just support every school having their adjacent street available to them? And, you know, if they need it, I mean, I feel like all the schools have so many students and so many people inside that it would benefit all of them to have access to their adjacent streets.
Although not all of them want that, and I think maybe we could put something if any school wants their adjacent streets that can be expedited.
Yeah.
Yeah, the timing's important, you're right.
But how about saying we don't want, we hope that the schools will not open until we have equitable and safe space for all the children. So we advocate not opening until you're safe. I mean, this sounds pretty crazy. There's, you know, alternate days and alternate streets and Jersey barriers within a month.
I'm sort of inclined not to say that, Keen, because there's 100 different issues that we could say need to be resolved before the schools open safely. There's I mean, I could just rattle off a bunch now. There's ventilation, it's ingress, it's egress. How are you feeding these kids? How you teach? I mean, there's so many issues. And I just, I think it would be better, more effective to have this more narrowly focused on, you know, the open streets and parks and maybe adding the parks to it, the parks and open spaces to it.
Well, just think about it. I mean, maybe what we should be saying, I mean, I'm not sure they'll do anything, but maybe we should say we need equitable, good instruction for all the children. And it doesn't seem to be happening by September 10th. So consider not having the schools open until November 3rd, for instance. Or November 4th. I mean, at what point do we stop trying to fix what looks like a pretty broken system?
Yeah.
At what point do we say, you guys haven't got your act together and we're not going to put our children and our teachers in jeopardy because of that?
Yeah, that's what Chicago did. They announced they were going to go hybrid, and then they just announced fully remote.
Well,
yeah,
as
that was fully remote.
Yeah, as one of the 74% of parents that did not opt for 100% remote learning, I'm not sure I'm there. Yeah, the reality is it's going to be a mess. But remote learning was a disaster. So the bar is so low. My kid's going to go to school for 2 days a week. He's going to sit in a chair for 5.5 hours. He may not have any friends in his pod. Who knows how it's going to work out? There's so, you know, the schedule's going to constantly be changing, which is complicated. But the bar is so low, I'm willing to give it a try.
Right. I think we ought to talk about this, really. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and that makes sense too. But there's another way to look at it. And as a community board too, we don't get to decide. But if we act as if they have a good plan that we have to fix at the edges, then maybe they won't even realize how bad it is. And maybe if they fix it now on getting remote learning better than they did in the spring, maybe that's what we should be pushing. You know, computers for all the kids.
Well, we did push. I mean, the reality is we've pushed this. In May, we asked for better remote learning. In June, in July, we asked for, I mean, every single resolution, May, June, and July, asked for breaking the digital divide. We did a separate one last month. I mean, there's so.
We, you know, I don't know why we're saying, well, we give up on that.
No, I'm not saying we give up, and we could re-say it. We could send another one. We could just, you know, let's just, other committee members.
Yeah, you know, Keen, I think, first of all, right now, as of today, I have no intention of sending my child into a school building because that seems crazy to me. There are people who have to because they have to go back to work, and I understand that. But I don't know about the 74% statistic right now of parents who have actually intend to send their kids into school buildings, because the way the system is set up, there's absolutely no motivation to opt out at this point. The deadline was not a deadline anyway, but right. I mean, they never shut down, you know, the choice. But the fact is, there's no motivation for me to opt out for full remote right now. So as far as they're concerned, my daughter's going back to school, and I wonder how many other people, you know, are feeling that way, or if they're feeling like, well, maybe I'll send them the first couple of days or first week or whatever. And if I don't like it, I can always pull them out anytime, which is part of the system. So that in and of itself doesn't really, you know, contribute to actual statistics, in my opinion. And yes, they should have been spending all of this time, whether children were going back into school buildings or not, in refining and perfecting remote learning, which they have not all done. So this is where we are.
I would agree with that, Mar. I mean, I'm totally not sending my kids back into the school building either, but I haven't said that to the DOE because I can decide the first day of school to opt for remote learning. So there's no real statistic on how many families are going to ultimately do that, since you can opt out at any time. And I am really pondering this question of equity, about reopening. I mean, some schools will get have open streets already in place in front of their school. Like I know Cook Academy already has they've always had an open street on McDougall Street. And then many schools are, not able to get this access to this open space that they're requesting and need. And there's just it's just not equitable across all the schools in our community board in terms of the resources they have to create a safe learning environment. It is a major concern. I don't know what that means in terms of in terms of our position, but I do think it's something that should be highlighted that, every school should have access to what they need to make it safe for their students. And it shouldn't be like the schools that have it. Those are just the lucky ones, the fortunate ones, the privileged ones, and the schools that don't have it. Oh, well,
Yeah.
it's a hard mess.
I find it particularly disturbing that Harvest Collegiate does not have a functioning ventilation system, and it was already broken and nobody's fixed it.
I've read about several schools with the same issue.
No, I hear you. I just I'm just appalled, I guess.
And schools that have windows that don't open as well.
Right. Yeah, again, politically, I'm thinking that if we said something to, we got to get them to really understand this is a much bigger crisis than whether or not to open a street by PS 41. We're advocating much more serious looking at this whole thing. If we said you should open schools much later because you're not ready and really work on remote, they're not going to do it. I mean, that our little voice is just one little voice. But if we say, yes, you've got a good enough plan, but you need to fix it a little bit by putting these better barriers, then I think we're going along with the program in a way that I don't want to go along with.
What about two resolutions? One that's narrowly focused on the streets and a second one that's more broadly focused on, reopening needs to include these items.
But yes, we could do a resolution, but how will it address the equity? I mean, do we have any solutions for schools?
No, I mean, that's my biggest concern. I mean, there's part of me, this is not for today's meeting, but people keep talking about under-resourced schools. It's we should go through every school downtown or in District 2, or obviously starting with CB2, but partner with other community boards. And do you have a library? Do you have go through the laundry list of school amenities, or what we would think of as basic standards, all the things that 75 Morton has and more, and figure out who has them and are they getting them, and what's the staff turnover, and that's the quality report. But from a facilities perspective, there's just so many inequities out here, and at the end of the day, there are parents who need childcare who are going to send their kids to school. And
but other ways to say, school is not the only childcare version. We could have a whole other system providing childcare. We could. Or, there are other ways to do it. We can't just let that act as if schools' main function is childcare, especially because they're saying, even if the schools are open, you send your child to school 2 days a week. You still got the childcare problem. So we got to solve somebody's got to solve the childcare problem. But opening the schools is not the solution. It's just a Band-Aid on another problem. If the problem is getting instruction for the children, the Board of Education is not doing it right. And if the problem is better instruction for the children, the answer is really good remote. That's what I think.
Well, absolutely, the answer is really good remote. And I don't think that's happening.
Right, can we make it happen? I mean, what can we do to get the Department of Education to look at the big issue? And the big issue, I mean, you know, the meals and the childcare is another issue. It's not quality instruction for kids. That's what we need. And how are we going to get quality instruction for kids with closed windows? I don't know.
We're not, which is why so many affluent families are setting up their own remote pods and shadow schools and mini schools to supplement what the DOE is not providing. How do we set those up for the kids that really need them?
Yes.
How do we, well, let's talk. Let's talk about how to make that happen. You know, NYCHA should have some sort of remote pod for every little group of kids, you know, West Village Houses, Silver Towers. I mean, why? These are all places that have public-private space that is open. Why are there not pods being set up in each of those communities? Can we do something for that?
Well, there are no, the answer is we could, but not through CB2 because there are no, because there are no NYCHA buildings in CB2. I'm just gonna, pardon me?
There's still, I mean, it's not NYCHA, but there are, you know, big apartment complexes that have large numbers of families living in them.
Absolutely.
So,
like West Village Houses, like West Beth, like Silver Towers.
Yes. What's the right answer is what we've been saying all along, is quality instruction. And I can tell you, I love my son's principal. She's amazing. She's probably one of the better principals in District 2. And her slides last week had titles like Tempering Expectations was the title of the slide. Trust. TBD was the title of the slide. TBD. So I just don't, Pat's texting, Pat Comerford has to go. So thank you, Pat, for joining us. I mean, I hear.
Can I make I'm thinking maybe somebody should, maybe we write a letter to Cuomo saying he should, like how they fast track those medical students. We probably need to fast track these teachers that are graduating that don't have in-class instruction and they need that, because there's not going to be enough teachers that are going to be able to break out into these small pods to be teaching these kids. And if you've got teachers that are in school and they need that instruction, if they're licensed, they can be with your child alone. I'm thinking we need to push for something similar like that.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is if everyone's being taught in smaller groups, you need more teachers and you need more money.
Right, and we have all of these, you know, teachers coming out of these schools, as Patricia said, who need to make up their actual instructional hours in order to receive their certificates. And all they need is a supervising teacher who doesn't need to be with them all the time, but needs to supervise lesson plans. That's actually free labor and helping these prospective teachers get the credentials they need to be full-fledged teachers. It seems actually like a win-win.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And what, you know, how many teachers are not going to go back is another interesting question. Do we know?
Well, I think it was, what was it? I can't remember, it was 11 or 15% or 11.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But has the UFT told the teachers to report to work on September 10th? Is that communication clear?
They only got the list of who's going to school and who's not today. So my guess is no. I mean, we have been told that we might hear something by, you know, late August, maybe early September.
Right.
I mean, for parents who even need any semblance of planning, it's almost impossible.
It's absolutely impossible.
It's absolutely impossible. It's frustrating, and I've vacillated between, I mean, I can't make people give me an answer, so I'm just not going to worry about it, I guess. I mean, I can't change it, so I'm going to focus on things I can change, which is maybe buying a new computer or something like that. Wealthy people problem.
I think you're going to see a huge difference between the private schools and the public schools. I mean, private schools are going to hire all the extra teachers, and they're going to build the tent outside. They're going to find the extra space. It's going to be dramatically different. The kids are going to go back 5 days a week.
And some of them, yeah.
I mean, but the DO is different in that the teachers are unionized, whereas the private schools, they're not, and they have the funds and can do what they like to make.
And I think it is changing. Brooklyn Friends is 100% remote. Packer in Brooklyn is 100% remote. Poly Prep is going to be, they're going to use tents, and they're going to be on campus 4 days a week. But they ask parents to drive their kids to and from school, because with 25% bus capacity, they can't get the kids to school. So that plan only works if parents want to shift from being teachers to bus drivers. So I don't think it's, I think the younger schools, the younger the kids are, the more high probability that they're going back. But I do think as time goes on, schools that were expected to be in person are shifting to remote, even in the private school space.
Also, it's changed. I know that since we have seen in other states, and schools are paying attention to what's happening in other states, we're seeing schools reopening and shutting down after a week or a day, because they see COVID immediately starts to circulate in the population. That, you know, I mean, the Uptown, a private school that was going to be in-person blended is now doing only what they call distance learning for next year, because they're seeing how it's not, these blended reopening plans are not successful in other places.
I like your 2 resolutions idea, but I think one resolution should say, you know, we also recommend that until there is a smooth and equitable solution to this problem, that you focus your energy on excellent remote instruction for all, period, or something. I mean, something very simple, but just.
I like that, Keen. I can get comfortable, because at the end of the day, our kids are going to be remote 3 to 4 days a week.
Right, and meanwhile, the teachers, the poor teachers, you know, they're going to be teaching in person 5 days a week and providing remote. How is that going to happen? I mean, they haven't even thought about, I mean, if I was a teacher, I'd say, not now, this is too hard.
Yeah, you're right, I hadn't thought about that.
It's impossible.
I really hope teachers don't say that. I really hope teachers say, this is a national emergency, and I'm going to step up for my country and for my city. I have to say, I've been pretty disappointed with the rhetoric thus far. This is going to be about sacrifice. Honestly, this is a lot of people in this city and this country have put themselves at great risk over the course of the past 4 months. I am a little bit tired of the complaining.
Well, I'm not, the teachers are not complaining.
Not you, but
I mean,
it's going to be horrible.
The teachers
it's going to be a mess.
The teachers who really want to instruct the children are saying, you're making my job impossible. I have a mission, and I cannot do my mission. They're not complaining about their personal stuff. They're complaining about their calling.
No, I get it, but there is no solution to this. I mean, it is going to be a mess.
Well, how about good remote? Good remote could work, especially if you had, if for instance libraries or Silver Towers had a room with a lot of very good internet connection, and children all doing something, and an adult saying you have to push this button, or let's see. I mean, a good remote would not be nearly as bad, I don't think, as coming to school 2 days a week.
But I guess
my point on, with teachers who are exhausted and can't.
I'm totally with you. I guess my point is that we're what, 30 days out?
Right. That's the problem.
You know what I mean? If we had a super competent city agency running this operation that had the power to create ad hoc, streets are closed, we're done, end of conversation. There are pods in NYCHA, but that's not. Sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
But that's not what we have. And so this is going to be accomplished through the incredible work of Janine and you and all of, these hyper local solutions that shouldn't be the solution. I'm with you that incredible remote learning is absolutely what we should have, but we don't. And I'm totally in favor of saying we wish we had this, and you as a government agency are not delivering this. But I think if we say until we need, it's just not gonna, we're asking for something that we're never gonna get.
But at least we focus on what is important rather than focusing on let's fix your terrible plan by making it a little less terrible. And that's what I'm afraid we're doing.
No, the open streets concept is like the 1% aspect of the plan. So it's not, it's just one small part of the plan. But it's a tiny part of the plan, but it is a part that at least based, historically has required community board approval. So what I want to do is make sure that if a school wants to get an open street, there's no excuse that we didn't approve it.
So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
I think in terms of remote learning, also something to keep in mind, sort of to what Matt was saying, is that remote learning is ideally works really well and is the best solution, but is also not an equitable solution because of what we've been talking about for months, the lack of equitable access to technology. And additionally, students just aren't learning as well when they're watching videos of their teachers. As someone that did remote learning for several months, it was incredibly difficult to stay focused and incredibly difficult to be engaged. And my school was really good about having synchronous classes. So hypothetically, my teacher could call me out if I was not focused, but also teachers aren't going to spend the entire time on Zoom telling kids that they need to stay focused. And most schools aren't doing synchronous classes, which means that students aren't doing their work. And even if they are, they're falling behind. And I think that remote learning, there's this idea of remote learning that is really safe and everyone should be able to have access to and is the perfect solution. But in reality, getting students back into schools, obviously when it's safe, should be the end goal. And I don't think anyone is disputing that.
Yes, of course.
I think though that
I'm very against homeschooling and remote learning as a general thing. But right now, if we had, there are ways to do remote learning a lot better than they did in the spring. There are. And if teachers had some chance to figure it out, that would be what should be focused on right now. And in terms of safety, how much safety and how much instruction. And I just think right, our focus should be not to say, well, you've got a good possibility, but you ought to do it on this schedule with this entrance and this street for this school. That's not what we should be telling them. I'm afraid that what they're telling us, their direction is to get us to pay attention to a detail. And our job as a community board is to raise a flag about the big picture.
Okay.
In either case, we're not going to have the power to do it.
Yeah.
But at least we get to say something that's important. And maybe if we say it clear enough, somebody will say, well, Chicago, Philadelphia, private schools in our city are going only remote. Maybe we should think about that. And of course, I was saying November, but I could live with October, I could live with December. I mean, just September 10th is not when they should start this much too imperfect plan. That's what I think.
Yeah. Okay, Akila?
I wanted to, what about this idea? One of the things that I lamented this summer was that the DOE did not hire teachers to work all summer long to create a remote learning program that would really be better. And they didn't contract with universities and other places that have been, and also there's plenty of virtual schools out there that, professional kids who are working professional kids, they've been doing virtual school for years and years and years. And there are a lot of resources out there to teach for teachers to learn how to deliver an education via a digital platform. And one of the things I would like to see is for the DOE to hire teachers, and maybe the whole first month of September, teachers are working full time to create a synchronized learning, remote distance learning program. And they're working full time on creating that program. And then schools start in October. And they spend an entire month getting the training they need, developing the tools they need, lining up all the other sort of, all the platforms they need to work with in order to really make that successful. And, getting special education teachers who are working with kids who really they desperately need the remote learning platform to be catered to those kids in a more specific way, and really giving the special education teachers, the speech and language and OT and all the therapists, giving them a month of without teaching, but just developing their plans and their platforms. What do you think about that?
I like it.
Here's my thing. I like it, but I am not supportive of a resolution that says schools shouldn't open for a month, because we didn't have on our agenda a resolution, discussion of whether schools should open on time or at a later point. And that's my view.
So we can't talk about it if it wasn't on the agenda?
No, we can talk about it, but we can certainly talk about it, but I'm not, I guess I'm not, like, the reality is there's no money for that. I'm just being a cynic. I'm going to be a cynic on this. There's no money for this. There's, and, like, we asked for training for remote learning. We asked for technology training. All of these things we've asked for past resolutions. So I'm happy to repackage them in a tighter, better, more concise resolution. But I personally am not ready to say schools shouldn't reopen, because it's going to be, some of the schools are reopening on a phase basis. Some of the schools are reopening with, they're just going to, like, bring the kids in and assess them, and then send different, the first month is just going to be assessment to figure out where these kids are and where they need to be. So, like, I don't have enough insight into what each individual school has done, other than I have very low expectations.
Is there some value in us voicing our opinion, in it being documented that, this is what we thought should happen, even if we think it's not going to happen? I mean, isn't that?
Yeah, I think we should say it. I think we should say it and reiterate a lot of the things that we've said over the last 3 or 4 months.
I mean, certainly we should keep, should reiterate until these things come to fruition, right? Just keep
Would anyone like to take a first stab at that?
I mean, but what would be the resolution in this instance?
The resolution would be, I think I tweeted something out like this. I firmly do believe it. It's like all of this energy is focused on the logistics of reopening, and very little of it is focused on the educational product that our children are going to be getting at the end of the day. And there's a mismatch of priorities, and the most important thing is the educational product. And I'm afraid that a bunch of principals and teachers whose expertise is educating children has been pulled away and has been focused on flow patterns and temperature checking and where the desks are going to go and how we're going to rotate around the building, and not on delivering a quality educational product. But at the end of the day, in-person instruction is infinitely better than
not infinitely.
And not for every student. Certainly there are students who really thrived under remote, who were not so comfortable in school buildings.
I would back up Janine that I'm guessing the overwhelming majority of kids are probably best served in a classroom, all things being equal.
Yeah.
What kind of classroom?
No, all things being equal, I think on the whole, the vast majority of kids are better served in classroom. Doesn't matter what, like all the other variables put aside.
It depends on the teacher and the teacher's
But Keen, I think you're just parsing. I think you're getting way too in the weeds on this. And but on the whole, a classroom is, if you have the same teacher. There's no need to get in the weeds on this. But I don't want us to get away from things that we can actively change. And I think we have a real opportunity to talk specifically about the open streets. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do another res, but that we can put in a whereas. Community Board 2 is deeply disappointed with the city's plan, with the way it's going. Whereas we wish it were like this, but it's not. We therefore are, presenting our recommendations.
2 resolutions. How about 2 resolutions?
Yes, and I'm asking, I agree with 2 resolutions, and I'm asking if anyone wants to take a stab at writing the second one, and I'd be happy to help. But anyone want to take the first draft? Okay.
I guess what would the thesis be?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it, but there needs to be, I think, some consensus as to what we all want, or what we all want to contribute to it, and what the point of it is if it's going to happen. I mean, Keen, Akila, do you guys want to get your stuff together and open in October? Or, with all that entail?
I put that question to the board to see if there was support for that, because I think that, pushing the DOE to, and I also think when it comes to let me finish the first thought. Pushing the DOE to improve their remote learning is just so important, with or without blended learning being implemented at all. To Janine's point that you're going to be home from school 3 days a week. So, this remote learning has to be worked on. It has to be improved. And, having, slides of managing expectations, or whatever these slides are, the principals in some schools clearly don't seem like yet they're in the position of really offering the type of remote instruction that's necessary. So, I mean, I do think we should push them and challenge their reopening plan if they really have not put resources into improving remote learning. I mean, that's going to be more than 50% how kids are learning, whether or not school's open. And for kids who are 100% remote for safety concerns, that's all they've got.
Do we have any suggestions?
I mean, I'm just gonna share my screen again. Hold on, let me go back. Let me share my screen.
I mean, I would be willing to try.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen, and I have this ready to go. This is what we proposed in May, after our session with 200 people. Parents, we want it, teacher check-ins, office hours, less reliance on content through delivery. I mean, like items 4, 5, and 6. We listed all of these things. I mean, we've already written this. The question is, nobody's done it. In terms of, I mean, so this is not, we have asked for these things. We've been ignored, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it again. We shouldn't do it again, but we have asked for all of these things.
Right. I'm thinking that the second resolution, I mean, I would try to draft it and then you guys can all say no, no, no. But I think it should be very short.
Yes, I agree.
Like there's something very clear that I could draft. If that's what the group wants me to try to do, I would certainly do it. Is that what I should do?
I think I support that. And then I'm going to send you what we've already agreed to, Keen.
Good. And this, by the way, this gets past the problem of, that we didn't put it on the agenda list because we already did it. So It's not going to be new stuff. It's just going to be reiterating with more force, hopefully, because it's shorter, what we've already agreed.
Okay. Okay. I will get a draft. Keen, what's the timing for that? Anyone, like a couple days?
No. Tonight.
Tomorrow? All right, Keen. Okay, then I'll get one. Okay, so we can talk about it.
It has to go to you all, and I mean, no, right away. Tonight, tomorrow morning.
All right, so remember, I am going
Great.
to turn off the unmute.
Okay.
I'm only looking for the 65th assembly right now.
And you're on the same second Zoom that I am.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to, you guys, I scheduled this meeting for 5 because I had another meeting that's already started. So we're going to, I will get something on the open streets out. Keen will get something on reiterating our position on safe reopening of schools and high quality remote education product. And are there any other comments or questions before we end our meeting? No.
Just thank you, everyone.
The full board this Thursday.
No, the full board, we have exec tomorrow. Full board is a week.
Next Thursday.
Thursday.
No, it's not this week. Full board is the 20th. The full board is the 20th. So.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, but we have one exec tomorrow, and then we have another exec the following week. So. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great job. Thank you all.